Call to order this meeting of the Fitchburg Board of Public Works for June 5th, 2023, held in the Genie Seelig Room. Our first order of business is our call to order, and tonight we have myself, Dave Lowe, and Kim, and Bill, and City Engineer, Director of Public Works, Tim Volker. Misty is here, and Don is not here. We're not sure. Maybe he'll come later. We'll see. But we have enough to move on. Next, we have public appearances for non-agenda items, and Mr. David Hayes would like to come up and speak.
So I wanted to see.
Take your time here. I feel like I'm rushing you here.
So I want to talk about NR 103, which is the wetland water quality standard. So it was passed, and in fact, 1991 applies to every wetland in the state, big, small, identified, unidentified. In particular, it doesn't, other water quality standards talk about the water. The wetland water quality standard is completely different. It talks about protected functional values of a particular wetland. So each wetland is unique, and its functional values are protected within the range of natural variation. And anytime that, say, for example, pull a wet des permit for construction, it says right in there that if you're going to touch a wetland, you're not eligible for that permit. And I'll talk about that in one of these other items. But I want to go over what it says. So basically it says that if you're going to affect the wetland, and there's different ways you can affect the wetland, but one thing that automatically kicks into this is the construction of a new or increased point source discharge into a wetland. That happens, you have to do this. This has to be run by the DNR. It makes a determination in advance of issuing the permit. And what it does is it looks at the potential for harms to the protected functional values of the wetlands. And one of the key things that it looks for is potential secondary and cumulative effects to wetlands that are in environmental corridors, which are part of a Dane County water quality plan. So if you're going to put a new point source or increased point source discharge into a wetland, the DNR has to run this algorithm, and the burden of proof to show that there is no harm to the wetland protected values is on the applicant. The DNR does not have to prove anything. It's up to the applicant to prove that it will not cause any negative impact to the protected functional values, which include the things that you would guess: hydrology, biology, and even includes scenic beauty. So this applies to every aspect of stormwater permitting within the city of Fitchburg. It's also in the MS4 permit. It says, regardless of what happened at construction time, the discharges from the MS4 may not impact any of the protected functional values of the wetlands. And this came into play in 2015 when Spain wanted to develop 1,000 acres, and Wabasha wetlands are a couple miles downstream. Town had done, brought in top-notch attorney, said, guess what? This applies. They did it big. They brought in scientists, blah, 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 ruled out 500 acres. So it's not just local, it can be as far as the Wabasha wetlands. So if it affects Swan Creek negatively, so I just wanted to put that out there as something, because people don't generally know about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Next agenda item, we have 3A, approval of the May 15th meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. Any questions or corrections? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor of approval of the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next, we have the report from Department Head, Director of Public Works, Mr. Tim Volker.
For the record, Tim Volker, Director of Public Works, City Engineer. I'll start with the staffing updates. Currently, we have 4 openings in our engineering department. Recently had a engineering technician in our environmental section leave. So that brings us up to 4. Our part-time environmental engineer, we interviewed a candidate and she has accepted the position and she'll be starting on June 12th. And then we also interviewed 2 people for our project engineer right away. That's Ross's current position. So once that gets filled, we'll be able to move Ross into the transportation. So it looks like we'll be able to find a good candidate out of one of those 2. So the removal of the PE license has generated a lot more interest in these positions, and we're getting applications. So I'm pretty confident in filling these remaining positions pretty quick. So. As far as project updates, Sain Road reconstruction project, the intersection of Sain Road and Lacey Road, the intersection still remains closed. It's looking like the end of June is the soonest that intersection would reopen. We're still waiting on some utility relocates. MG&E and AT&T need to remove some poles for us to pour some curb and gutter. So until those get relocated, we're kind of on a hold. But AT&T is coming out there, and then once they remove their utilities, MG&E will be able to remove the poles. And hopefully we can pour a curb and gutter and pave and get that intersection open by the end of the month. And then Sain and East Sherrill will close once Lacey and Sain open. For the Lacey Road Seminole Highway reconstruction project, Parisi Construction is working on installing the utilities, water and sewer for the project. On Monday, June 12th, the intersection of Lacey Road and Seminole Highway will close. School ends this week, so Monday, Parisi will be closing down that intersection to start the roundabout construction. And then on to Fitchburg Road reconstruction project. That is the project from Tonto Trail north to Nesbitt Road. We had a public information meeting on Thursday, May 25th, 2023, and we had a good turnout, about 20-some people from the public attend that meeting. So we're about 30% design on that project. So this year and next year we'll wrap up the design, and construction would be 2025 for that project. And then our Sherrill Drive stormwater improvement projects, curb and gutter will be installed this week, pavings next week, and we're looking to be substantially complete by the end of this month on that project. So with that, does anyone have any questions?
Okay, I had one here. Yes, so with the intersection of Seminole and Lacey closed, if you've ever been at shift change for Sub-Zero, substantial amount of people come pouring out of Bud's Drive and they're going south. If we talk to police, or I don't want. I'm a little concerned about the McKee Road and Seminole Highway intersection. Everyone has to go that route at shift change, coming in and going out. In the morning, it's no problem. They start at 6, but and they let out at 2, which is not a prime time. But I don't know if we've talked to Sub-Zero about that, or for the police. We might just want to watch it the first day or 2, or maybe have police officer down at McKee or someone from Public Works to kind of gauge what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We can monitor that, and if it's an issue, get the police involved to help look at that. Unintended consequences. People may want to cut through Schumann Drive, and, finding an alternate way through. So I'm just warning
warning you, people, they find a way to get where they want to go, and then if it's a neighborhood and there's more traffic, then they're irritated. But it's the nature of us doing projects. But make you aware of that, Tim. I'm sure you are.
We're going to put a sign on Sub-Zero Parkway at Seminole saying you can't go right.
There is a detour route. I'm not sure the exact details of the signage, but that was reviewed and approved by the design engineer.
I've seen people pouring out of there, and if you got an entire line of cars and one guy turns right, the guy behind him is also going to turn right, and they're going to be a little upset.
It shouldn't be too bad, Bill, because there should not be much traffic going south on Seminole Highway.
Right.
Because it's closed down there, so they should be able to get out, going north on Seminole to get out. I'm more the intersection at McKee might lay into a pretty big backup there, but.
Can always change the signal timing on that if it gets to be an issue too.
That was my thought.
Make the northbound leg have longer green time.
Okay.
Is that strictly timed, or is it based
No,
on?
It looks at the cue.
Yeah.
I think it looks at the cue.
Yes.
Okay.
It's detected or whatever.
But I don't think the queue goes back 50 cars, which you could easily get there at shift change.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good. I don't know how many people, but it's in the hundreds, I think, at shift change. It happens pretty quick.
You can always make the green time, the minimum green time from 2 to 2:30 or wherever, how long, longer than what the minimum green time is now for that leg.
Well, it won't be a problem. They're a good neighbor. They start early and we get off 2:30. We're letting out at 4:30. I think it'd be back up. So I just want to mention it to you, Tim. Any other questions for?
I have one question. When taking the PE requirement off of your positions, are you still looking for engineers? Are you having ability to obtain the PE within so many years, or you don't even care if you don't have engineers?
No, absolutely. So we took off the PE requirement and modified the education requirement too, that they don't need an engineering degree but have sufficient experience in public works or engineering. But we also have, if they have a degree in the EI, that they would be put in a different grade if they were to apply for that same position. So yeah, we could get both applicants, one without a PE, one with a PE. And then also, obviously, we would like them to obtain their PE license if they come in with an engineering degree. So.
Because some of those positions, I would think you might want at least an engineering degree, even if they don't have their PE at this point.
Absolutely.
Anything else for Tim? Thank you. I know you're very busy. Very good. All right, next we'll move on to our agenda items. First, we have 5A, Resolution R-109-23, approving 2023 through 2026 ecological services, West Lacey Road Stormwater Facilities Contract. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim. Do we have a second? Second by Bill. Mr. Haith, would you like to come and speak for this? Go first here.
So this is not directly the item, but it's related. So pursuant to what I said before, so West Lacey Road, 2 new point source discharges to the wetland, from a wetland. Permit that was applied for, city's not eligible under the rule. It says right here. Non-disturbing construction activity and associated stormwater discharges affect wetlands unless the department, DNR, determines that the land disturbing construction activity and associated stormwater discharges comply. And they don't do that. What they do is they make you get an individual permit, which is a slightly different process, whereby they will then roll in NR 103 compliance determination. So the way that permitting works is a general permit is not an application for a permit. There's one permit here, and what gets filed by the city is a notice of intent to comply with that permit. The DNR doesn't look at anything that's in the permit. Occasionally it does, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't approve and give you a permit. It's self-certification. when you look at what you get back, it says, based on what you told us, we assume you are eligible. If you're not, you have no permit and you have a problem. You're not, the city is not. It has no permit, it has a problem, and it's a bigger problem, right? Because we know that the Promega wetland is a sub-zero wetland, Promega wetland, how new terminology, is hydrologically a big issue, right? That's an ephemeral wetland. Water goes in, spreads out, goes down. Sub-zero pulled a wetland restoration permit. So it's not just a permit in an environmental corridor, it's a restored wetland in an environmental corridor. So the hydrology, which is a protected functional value, is way out of the natural range of variation. I mean, we had, I looked at a meeting of this body where one of the O'Briens came in, he said, he was asking something about some of the wells. He said, I think they pump 5 to 8 feet out of there, which is probably right? At some point. But
those were, I'll let you finish.
yeah, but the point is it's far, far out of, and its ecological value is 0, right? It's basically ecologically dead. That's a massive violation of the MS4 permit, which says that the city cannot, so the city owns the MS4, discharges from the MS4 are what going into the wetland and pushing the hydrology out of its range of natural variation and taking out the ecology. Now, what happened was, from a practical perspective, if you pull up the LiDAR stuff, when they did the wetland restoration, right, they needed to get some storage capacity back because of sub-zero, and what they did is they turned it into a giant bowl. So all the the soil that naturally is under wetlands tend to be very impermeable, and it was very thick. So what did? They took it, they spread it way the heck out and created an impermeable bowl. So that's how that happened. But the city has the problem because even though it doesn't own it, it operates it. And the water that's going into it comes out of the MS4. So we've got a big problem. And I'll be talking to you tomorrow or whatever, but this is a significant issue. I'm going to pursue it wherever it goes because that's a 16-acre rare urban wetland that basically has no ecological value at all anymore. In last summer, I measured the salt content because I don't know if you've seen how much salt Sub-Zero puts down on the pavement. It's simply ungodly. So the salt content that was in the wetland in the middle of summer was 5 times the allowable value. Got a 50-page report commissioned by the city. Had 2 DNR guys participating, including the wetland guy, and our 103 not mentioned at all. There's a problem here because the original design, I mean, if it's a wetland and you're putting in 300 acres of runoff, how's that going to work, right? But it doesn't let the city off the hook because the process was terrible.
So I'm gonna raise this issue. It was farmed. It was farmed for 100 years. You know, some years you couldn't farm it, some years you could. Some years when it was high, the water flowed across Lacey Road down the O'Brien property, went wherever, and since they dredged that out, the problem has been alleviated. I'm not sure. You know, the salt issue was one, but I'm not sure how we've made anything. I think we've only improved things by having a bowl there. You know,
The law is the law. And here's what happened, right? So if you look at O'Brien's testimony at the Regional Planning Commission when that was being added, he said the big year, it was 2013, or he said his testimony, you can read it.
A big rain year, yeah.
Yeah, he said, went, it was, gently sloped. And the problem is, you see, is that, and he said, big storm, 2 days it was gone. Because the wetland part is small, that part is impermeable. If it sits in there, it doesn't go anywhere except for evaporation. And the way these ephemeral wetlands work is they overflow. Outside of that center part, it's really permeable. That's where you get all your infiltration.
That whole basin is clay though, that all.
No, it is not. It is not.
All right,
You can read what O'Brien said.
Okay, I'm with you.
But the law is the law. And the city has a history of attacking wetlands. I've got an email that I got from an open records question from the DNR where Claudia and Bill Balke asked the DNR if there was some way they could turn the Seminole Glen wetland not into a wetland anymore. That's unacceptable.
Well, that's outside, but I would tell you that the DNR does not, they're very in favor of creating ponds, in areas that were, if it was a swamp, obviously you can't, but, if someone wants to dredge out and create a water-bearing pond, there's not a lot of opposition to that, and that's kind of what it looks like we did here.
Well, here's what the story is. So ephemeral wetlands that are wet and dry are the most productive ecosystems on Earth. You go out there, I'll show you a picture. When you start to dry out, there's not a living thing within the bounds of the wetland. That's the way it is. And the permit, so Sub-Zero pulled a wetland restoration permit. The wetland restoration is to restore it to its original functional values, which is the original hydrology. Gently sloping, fills out. And if you look at the original plans, the neighborhood plan, there was the preliminary stormwater management plan. It was all dependent on it operating in the way I'm describing, not the bowl. But what happened is there was a requirement to have the 200-year storage, and all of a sudden they came and said, okay, well, we got to do this. And if you read it, they basically came and talked to Corey Horton and said, got to have this. We need to store this, right? And whoosh.
I'll let you talk to Tim about this. Can I put it at that?
You bet. No problem.
It's beyond.
But I wanted to give some context.
Thank you for the context. It's my area of expertise. Tim, anything you want to add, or I'll let you talk to Mr. Heath and maybe report back to us?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on this? Okay. Then we'll call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 10923? I'm sorry.
I guess I was expecting a little bit of a report from somebody else, Tim or somebody before he was spoke. But so did you only get one bid on this project?
Oh,
We did.
I'm sorry, Tim.
So we got one bid on it. Ben Schulte, who's our stormwater engineer, worked on this project. He sent it out to 4 companies, Jensen, Heartland, Tallgrass, and Field and Stream. Jensen and Field and Stream were the 2 plan holders, and Field and Stream was the only one that submitted a bid. We haven't reached back out to the vendors on why they didn't submit something. Our guess is it's $77,000 over 4 years, to kind of submit something on an RFP, when there's so much work out there that they don't have to work to get work, was kind of our theory on it. If it would have been a higher dollar value, we definitely would have gotten more interest on it. So
Was $77,000 in the price range you were expecting?
yes, yeah. So Ben, when he received the bid, kind of looked at other contracts we had for vegetative management, and the line items that were similar between the 2 were comparable. So
Okay.
he felt comfortable awarding to Field and Stream, and we've worked with Field and Stream on previous projects and haven't had any issues. They do good work, so we were happy to move forward with them as the single
So the contractor's doing the grading and putting soil in and that kind of thing, and they were just doing the vegetation and the monitoring and over the 3 year
Yeah, so
period?
the Parisi will do the grading, the erosion matting, and then they'll install a cover crop, which is a fast growing crop just to prevent that erosion. And then we'll have Field and Stream come in, do the native seeding, and then kind of after that take care of the vegetation.
So is there provisions in here for some of the native seeding and things over the years doesn't take?
Yeah,
that
there's
they
a
replace
line
it?
item for plugs and all that.
Okay. All right, that's fine. From reading this, I assumed that they were the only bidder, but I wasn't sure.
And these services are through 2026. Do we envision that by then everything is well enough established that there's no ongoing maintenance necessary, or are we going to need to contract with someone beyond that?
Yeah, so the city has a contractor that does an annual maintenance on our other ponds. So this would just get added to that contract to take it after 2026. But yeah, there will be a perpetual ongoing maintenance in perpetuity.
The first years are the most critical with getting things
Right.
established.
Dave, do you have any questions on this? Nope. Anyone else? Call the vote. All in favor of Resolution R 10923, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, we have Resolution R 9823, amending the 2023 stormwater and water utility budget, water rate case professional services. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dave. Mr. Haith, did you want to speak on this also? Pass, okay. So we implemented, it was a number of years ago, we implemented a system where previously we would go every 5 years and then we would have a rate case. And then we would, sometimes it was a relatively large increase. So we implemented a system where we could go in for smaller amounts over that period, so we wouldn't be such a big hit to our customers. And so you can do that for 5 years, and now we have to do a full rate case now, Misty, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so exactly right. If I can back up for one moment. So the city water utility is a regulated utility, which means that all of our rate setting has to go through the Public Service Commission. And so the only way that the city can increase our water utility rates is to go through this rate application process through the PSC. And so just like Dave was saying, we try to do the simplified rate cases, which is a much simpler process, as you can imagine, 3% increase. We've done that twice now. But then once you hit that 5-year mark, you're not allowed to do that simplified version. You have to do what's called a full rate case, which does take money. We hire a consultant to help us through that process. It takes months of time. The PSC takes all of our data and then figures out what our rate should be. So they really are that regulatory rate setting body. So the staff is recommending that we go through that full rate case for this year. It would be effective next year. The reason why it's coming to you, though, is one, we had a hiccup, and two, the cost of the consultant is much higher than we thought it would be. So the first piece of this budget amendment is that the original cost that we thought we would spend on the consultant was budgeted in the wrong utility, in the wrong fund. It was budgeted in stormwater instead of water. So we're coming to you to fix that clerical error. And then the second piece of it is that we budgeted $13.5 for this cost. We went out and we got our quotes, and the low quote came in at $19,000. So the second piece of this budget amendment is to use funding that's available within the Verona Road project at the water utility that is now complete, and redirect that to help pay for this additional cost. The rest of the process will be the traditional process. There's a public hearing. The final thing will have to go through the PSC, and then the rates would be implemented after that.
Misty, is the amount left over from Verona Road, thank you. Was that contingency? Did we had contingency left, or?
Partially, yep, and then the project just came in better than what we had budgeted for.
Right.
And I know staff has identified a few different projects that they want to use that available funding for, so this would be just one of those pieces.
questions for Misty or?
Will this come back to Board of Public Works? I mean, right now, the only thing you're asking us to approve is the amendment for putting the stormwater money into the water where it should have been, and then to use some of our own road to start the whole process. Is that correct? So I read in here somewhere that it said somewhere you could go up to like 7%, and you're asking for 5.25. What does that? So I guess to me that seems like it'd be part of the process rather than how did you determine that at this point in time?
Yeah, so we included in the memo a little bit more background about why we go through the rate cases and what it means and that stuff. That you're right, that's not exactly what we're asking for at this point, but thought that context would be helpful as you're making this decision. So the statute says that the most rate of return you can ask for is the 7%. Fitchburg historically has requested a lower rate of return through the PSC process.
But you don't know for sure if that'll happen this time, but you're saying that you think it will, or what? I didn't really understand that.
Yep, so we are intending to ask for that same rate of return as what we have in the past.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, the PSC really makes that determination for us. But we believe that since we're a growing community, we have a lot of things, we're financially sound, we don't have any debt at this point, like there's a lot of reasons that we don't feel we need to ask for that full amount and just trying to keep the rates a little bit lower.
One thing, I would tell you that all the time I've been on the board is we run a very lean water utility.
Yeah.
The number of employees we have is phenomenal, to the service that we provide, to the number of people, the number of wells. We run one of the best operations in the state, or probably the region, I felt. And you look at what our rates are compared to other cities.
Madison's is by any chance? I'm surprised Madison was not in that list.
So I have the full list of everybody. I believe it was higher, but I can get that exact
Yeah,
amount to you.
I was just curious as to where we fit in with them. And since they're the elephant in the room, it just seems like, why did we not put them in there? Were they lower and we were looking for just people that were higher in here or whatever?
I'm sure they're higher, They do lead
I was just
main replacement.
I was just interested for comparison purposes.
Yeah, we've been fortunate, that
But as
we
we'll
don't
see,
have reservoirs that
Yeah.
take additional treatment. We've been able to find good well sites. Little contamination of anything that we have. We've been very, very fortunate, and hopefully that continues. But you look at what
We'll see in a subsequent item coming down here that some of the wells are old and have issues and are taking more money than what we think they're going to take. Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask
So
about that.
as much as lean as we are, maybe we need to, look at, because providing water to the residents is a very important aspect of it. And, having wells have issues and have problems and having to reroute things and stuff, it's the redundancy and stuff. You want to make sure it's like, sort of like us, for some reason, screwing up payroll and people not getting the right amount of money in their check. It'll be like, that would be a big issue. People turning on their faucets and not getting decent quality water would be a big issue too.
Well, when they don't, they certainly get the call pretty quick.
I bet you do.
I would tell you, if there's a break or something, or flushing, that call comes pretty quickly, and then they have to remind them.
I am certainly in favor of, hiring a consultant, and I do understand. I know just from our business, our costs have gone up so much in the last 2 years too, that I can see when you budgeted this way. I'm surprised it only went up $6,000, but still that's like 50% almost, but yeah.
I would just add in here, I think we're very fortunate. Tracy has been with the water system, for a long time. Very competent engineer, very professional, and we've just been fortunate to have her doing that role. She's moving, to assistant director of public works
You're
now.
not losing the background in knowledge.
That's the big thing. Yeah, you can always ask her.
Yeah, the history.
Any other questions on this?
What is meant by the phrase rate of return in this context?
Yeah, so as a public utility, we are not a for-profit business, but we still are expected to have a rate of return, which is kind of the same idea as a profit, but it's that little bit of a buffer for cash flow purposes and to make sure we have enough money that we're putting back into our system.
Okay, so we're collecting the rates, and after all of our expenses, we're expected to come out ahead by 5.25%.
Exactly.
Handle any emergencies or
Sure.
Exactly.
Great, good question.
Any other questions on this? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R9823 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have resolution R11123 approving purchase of a 3/4 ton Chevy utility truck. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. This was, we are replacing a 2008 truck, I believe, with a new model.
Hoping to.
So, Tim,
Want to add anything to this? This is a scheduled, this is a scheduled upgrade. We've been putting money, we put our replacement budget, we put money aside for this. Is there anything we salvage off the old truck? Lights, box, or anything like that, or is it?
It goes to auction.
Okay.
If there is a utility box on it, we'll look to utilize it in the new truck if it'll fit, or if there's a different vehicle that we have where we can fit it. The only thing I would add is that we kind of anticipate this new 3/4 ton Chevy to be more than budgeted. So we budgeted $32,000. In the case that it is more than budgeted, we would utilize $8,000 that's budgeted for an existing generator we're going to replace. And that existing generator has low hours and it's still in good condition. So, we can put that off for another year or two and put that money towards this truck if it does come in over budget.
All right, you have a contingency there. All right. Any questions?
So you don't really know who the vendor will be because it goes through that whole state process. This is like you're getting ready because last time they all sold out in one day.
Correct.
We didn't get in there. But in here you still have the Ewald Automotive Group. That wouldn't have to come back to us for a change, would it?
No, it would not.
Okay.
EWOL was, I believe, just a placeholder till
Okay.
the new vendor gets
Okay, I
awarded.
think they had it last year, so they were anticipating maybe or guessing that they may be in the likelihood this year.
No, I'm sorry, I'm going to ask the question, but what's the main use? What is this truck doing?
So the staff member assigned to this truck is the lead worker in our utilities. So it'd be utilized for just daily operations for the job, such as meter change outs, water main breaks, turning valves, just basically daily use, hauling equipment back and forth.
You were prepared for a question.
Yeah.
Well, in the agenda packet, it does show that the cost is evenly split between water and sewer.
yeah. Yeah. All right. Again, it was a 2008, 12, we have 15 years, so I think we're being judicious in keeping our equipment, as long as it's usable, not being too high of maintenance and unreliable. Any other questions for Tim? Call the board on.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, so if we're earmarking $8,000 for the generator, are we gonna need to make adjustments for replacement funds for that generator going forward?
Yeah, so the future CIP would take that into account. So if we do need that money, we'd look to in a future year, replace that generator so that $8,000 would show up in a future year. So whether it's next year or the year after, you'd see an $8,000 for the generator.
Okay. Anything else? We'll call the vote. All in favor of resolution R11123 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have resolution R11023, acceptance of 2023 utility improvement bid. Do we have a motion to approve?
And we're looking to table this.
Okay.
We're still verifying the documents and references for the low bidder.
Okay.
So we'd like to table it to the next meeting. And the next meeting is later on in the agenda. It's a city holiday, June 19th, so we kind of need to discuss a date on the next meeting.
All right. So first, I'll make a motion to table resolution R11023 until the next Board of Public Works meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved by Bill, second by Kim.
So I'll call the vote. All in favor of tabling, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, let's, while we're on it here then,
I think it's in the bottom.
it's in the bottom, all right, we just got, all right, we'll get to it then. Okay. Next, we have Resolution R-11023, accepting subdivision improvements in the Ocala Certified Survey Map. We have a motion to approve.
I so move we approve resolution R-101-23.
Moved by Wilborn, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kim. So when we had this previously, there were still punch list items that had not been completed to our satisfaction. With it coming forward, I believe it's been inspected and everything is completed.
Correct.
Okay. What were a couple of the things that were dragging on, you recall?
There was some concrete work with the sidewalk that we weren't happy with, and some stuff related to the parking lot. Just some minor punch list items that we wanted to ensure got taken care of.
Okay. So you're satisfied with what's done?
Correct.
Questions for?
I think this was mentioned in the past. A 14-month warranty seems awfully short for infrastructure like this. Is that pretty typical?
Yeah, typically it's like 12 months. 14's kind of an odd number, I thought.
It's actually an even number.
It is.
I agree, Bill. You know, I guess I've just gone merrily along.
12 months is pretty typical.
Yeah, one year warranty is like a typical warranty.
And this
for an
is
infrastructure.
from the moment that you say, yeah, it's good enough, not from the moment that like significant use occurs.
Once we finally accept the improvements.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any, do we ever do any type of inspection near the end of the warranty? I'm not aware that we ever have.
At my previous employer, we would put something on our calendars to remind us to walk, through maybe a month or a couple weeks before that ends. The city of Fitchburg's process, I'm not sure, but I can.
Can we think
follow
about
up on that.
implementing that? I don't want to put more burden on you, but
Absolutely.
I think that would be, I think it'd be worth doing. It might just be sidewalk cracked, and
And the city may have that in place, but I'll check to see.
okay. Yeah, I'm not aware of it.
There will be significant construction going on and around this, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, heavy machinery could easily damage some of this stuff. Would that then fall on the developer to repair?
If it's within the 14-month period, yes.
Well, okay, so maybe I'm not aware. Is it the same developer doing these improvements as is going to be constructing the new buildings? Well, I mean, if it's within the warranty period, but it was damaged by a third party, then would the original contractor still take care of it?
It all depends on who the developer gets to do it. If it's their responsibility, it's not, city just has to point out that this is the problem. And then it's up to the developer of the original of this one here who has signed this agreement that they get it fixed. Who they get to fix it is up to them.
Yeah, say a car were to crash and the curb breaks and sidewalk gets ripped up. Obviously, the developer and contractor is going to argue that wasn't our workmanship. It was the accident that caused it. And we would go after the insurance of the accident. So yeah, kind of there's some gray area on, say the curb's cracked or something, on what caused it. Was it workmanship? We'd kind of have to evaluate that, and there may be some back and forth arguing with the contractor on whether or not their workmanship caused it or, a third party hit it. So there's some gray area to that.
Okay.
Because they're going to be reluctant to replace stuff. It's on their.
Well, right. I mean, if you built, I was assuming contractor A does the curb and gutter, et cetera, and then, the developer comes in, they put up their building, they've got heavy machinery running through. Oops, we ran over the curb and we took out a chunk or something. I didn't know who was responsible for repairing that then. I guess I was assuming the guy who did the damage, but maybe not.
Right. Yeah, that's who we would go after. If a second contractor came in and damaged it, we'd look for for that contractor to make the repair.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the vote, all in favor of resolution R 10123, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's good. So we are tabled on that. Last, we have resolution R 11523, approving change order for number 3 maintenance services at well 5. We have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve.
Moved by Kim, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill,
There is well 5.
by the Serenity Club.
Okay. I drove by there several times today and they're working, there's water out.
There's water coming out of the, so I thought maybe we were done. What have they found? What's the next bad news, I guess?
So when they went to turn the pump on, the ratchet disassembled on the pump. So that stops the pump from backspinning. So what we did was we had the motor reconditioned and we used a ratchet from a spare motor we had to fix that problem. So this change order included that ratchet replacement. There was an additional 51 feet of sand that we had to remove too. So when they went in to air develop the well for additional capacity, another 51 feet of sand had to be removed after the contractor air developed it. And there was couplings, 19 couplings we needed. And then kind of this change order also includes truing up other unit costs of the contract work. So change order number 3 on this project is looking for additional funds of $35,000. And these funds would be utilized from 2022 carryovers. So it wouldn't hit our current budget. Utilize last year's budget that we moved forward into this year.
Explain. I don't quite understand the ratchet. Can you explain that a little for? I'm a very good mechanical mind. So the well, the impeller's going to turn. The motor's going to turn the impeller. And what is the ratchet doing?
So it stops the pump from backspinning.
Oh, so when you pump the water in the column, so it doesn't all go back down. Okay. All right.
So that something failed with the ratchet. We actually had another vendor look at it to determine if it was the contractor's operations that had caused it, and they said no, it was just a failure of the part. So,
Well, could all the sand we pump out of there, could that prematurely damage
we
it?
have pumped. I think it's.
Surprised there's any impeller left.
We were 82 feet before this, and then 51 feet, so 133 feet of sand we've pumped or removed out of this.
We routinely have to haul a lot of sand out of the reservoir right there, don't we?
Correct. We also drain the reservoir, remove the sand out of there, and then we fill that.
Yeah, I mean, when we're gonna do that, we'll let people know if they want sand for their sandboxes. Yeah, that's.
Try easier way to get rid of it.
Yeah. How, so this, we had the problems, this is outside of this resolution, but anticipating that we want this thing on a 5-year maintenance schedule moving forward. We don't want to go to the 10 again or wait for the failure. Okay. Is that your intention, to move this one to a 5-year maintenance schedule or a shorter schedule?
As long as funding allows for it. Obviously, you want to keep on a repetitive, be more proactive than reactive at any time.
Are you talking the couplings? Is that on the standpipe where the sections are connected together?
So
That was not a biological corrosion like we've had in some of the other wells.
correct. It wasn't related to the biological corrosion.
You said that 80-some feet of sand had been removed and and then another additional 51. Was that truly additional, or have there been some backfill between the two events? I mean, do we have a problem where sand is accumulating faster than expected?
No, so the sand that was removed previously was already existing, so when they went in, removed the columns and the pump, they removed the sand that was down there. So when they air develop, they shoot nitrogen down through the formation. So every, they go by intervals, maybe 3 to 5 feet, shoot air. As the air goes through the formation, it loosens some of that sand, and then that sand drops. So after they work their way down the column of the well, doing that
that was
air
the whole
development,
point of that air development.
exactly. You want that sand to come off that formation now when a contractor's there to remove it. So in 5 years, like Dave was saying, that'd be 51 less feet theoretically of sand that could potentially be at the bottom of your well.
Did we misidentifying that was gonna, we're air, we're gonna air blast it or whatever, should we have said, well, we know there's gonna be costs because we're gonna end up with a lot more sand in there?
And the original contract included sand removal. We just went over, that's one of the line items we went over and had it to true up. So that, we can estimate how much sand comes off, but truly ever nail that number, I think it's hard to do.
That's pretty difficult, Kevin. Stab, wild ass guess, yeah. All right, thank you. I look forward to the well being returned to service.
We do too. It's awful dry out there.
Yeah,
So
we
dry
use it,
right now.
use it for the summer.
Get well soon.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Call the vote. All in favor of resolution R 11523, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Next, announcements. Our next Board of Public Works meeting falls on Juneteenth, which is that Monday. The city is off. So what would you suggest, Tim, when we have the meeting? I we could potentially have it. It's hard for me to do it Tuesday before council because I have another meeting I normally have on public safety is before council on Tuesdays. Can't really fit it in there. Did you want to try to do another one next week or do you want to go out to?
Well, the following one is on the 3rd of July, which is the day before the 4th of July, on Monday. So why not try to do the 26th, combine the 3rd and the 19th together on the 26th? I don't know if that works for anybody or if it's even a possibility, but it seems like the 3rd might be poorly attended. I don't believe that I will be here.
I've got an appointment at 7 on the 26th.
Would the Wednesday the 21st work for everyone? Or Thursday the 22nd?
Let's see, we're still in June. Wednesday or Thursday, both would work for me. Parks, we've had our June meetings, so those are on Thursdays. So the 26th is Council of the Whole meeting.
So that's probably not good.
So that Thursday, though,
The 20th is not the council meeting, the 27th is.
27th is the Council of the Whole.
Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday.
Oh, you're saying,
The 27th and 28th are council and committee of the whole.
oh, so you're saying the 20th
The 20th and 21st, that should work, the previous.
won't work, or 20,
So
Monday.
he said the 21st
The
or 22nd.
20th should
maybe.
work. We've got council here and committee of the whole here.
Okay, so then you're saying, I gotta look over here. So you're saying we go Tuesday the 20th?
Rather than Monday the 19th.
Yeah, okay.
I am not available on Tuesday the 20th, but that's.
What about you?
What day are we talking now?
Tuesday the 20th.
I mean, I don't know what anybody else has the rest of the week, but if Tuesday doesn't work for one, we could try Wednesday, we could try Thursday.
Yeah. I'm open to any of the days during that week. I'm back in
I'm
town.
okay also.
Should check my other calendars.
So Kim, you can't make the 20th, but you could make the 21st.
I could.
Are you talking June yet?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
June 21st. So we're
July.
not going to combine, what are we going to do with July? I guess we can figure out July 3rd on the next one.
So consider, Tim, I don't know, put a lot on you, but, you know, maybe consider combining that with the July 3rd meeting. And then we just have the one in July at, you know, mid-July.
2 weeks later than the 17th, right?
Yeah.
So which day?
Wednesday,
21st?
Wednesday the 21st.
At 5:30?
Yeah.
Do we think Fact TV needs to be consulted with?
It's Wednesday the 23rd, no, that's what it's.
Wednesday the 21st.
Oh, 21st.
George, are you listening? Is there anything on the calendar on Wednesday the 21st? Looks like we're open. Okay, he's not sure.
Well, let's plan on that right now, and then we'll check. I'll follow up with that. And if it doesn't work, I'll let you guys know.
That's not a problem for me that day, so.
Sounds good. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
That's a little adjourned.
In the roller, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 6:26.